Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is A Woman's Prerogative. This is a different time than we normally broadcast, and we will be back to broadcasting on Monday/Tuesday, depending on where you are in the world. Our topic today is superstitions and weird beliefs. What do you believe? And I first want to start off by saying thank you to all of our loyal followers and viewers. This show was in the top 10 last week. So let's do it again. Yay. So I am joined by our full-time panelist and a dear friend. She was in New Zealand and now she's in Australia. And she's also one of our expert presenters on Talking Heads. And her episode was in the top 10 last week. Yay. Her name is Mariska Dupria. Let's welcome her to the show. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And yes, quite a few things for us to be celebrating today.
That's right. 2 shows in the top 10. Good for you, girl. That's awesome. And so far, this show is also in the top 10 for this week, but we have to go all the way to Sunday. So we can't say anything yet. But before we begin, I'd love to have you give a little bit of background about yourself. You are someone who really believes in helping other people, and you helped me so much when I was looking to leave my corporate job. So tell our audience a little bit specifically about how you can help them, and does it matter where in the world they are?
Wow, good question. Does it matter where in the world you are? No, it does not. As long as we have at least some form of time zone overlap, you can be anywhere. So that would be that answer to that question. And how is it that I help? See, now this is where that Talking Heads episode comes in really handy. If you are not sure why you would want to employ a coach or what coaching is about and need a little bit more guidance within that space, please do go and have a look at last week's episodes on Talking Heads, where I discuss all of that. And of course, if you are a leader or thinking about leadership, stepping into leadership, or even going up in your leadership journey and working with your team, that is where I partner with you to see how to do that in a more humane way, so that we as humans can bring out the best in each other. And yes, I know that there's loads and loads of training and things out there, and we have a lot of knowledge. And I don't know whether you've ever found this, but you can read a book, or I have been known to read a book and not necessarily apply what I've read. So that's where coaching really comes in, to help us apply the things and see how it would actually work in our own environment and what we think about it, and what weird beliefs we might hold that might be holding us back. Not necessarily the same type of beliefs that we will be talking about today, but who knows? So that is what I do and who I help. And with that, Dr. Jacqueline, back to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get into the topic. And this can be really anything. I know for myself, I haven't been diagnosed with OCD, but I feel like I have OCD in some ways because everything has to be just perfect. And when I leave home, everything has to be all lined up. I have this superstition that if I don't have everything in order, then it's bad luck. So I might vacuum and clean and everything is pristine before I leave. So when I come back, it's the same way. And some people think that's crazy. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Before you leave your home, is everything in order or does that not bother you?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know whether I would frame it as a belief as such. I just really enjoy the space when I come back to be nice and neat and everything is in its place and I don't have to worry about cleaning anything, especially after a trip. I already have a bag full of clothes that may or may not need washing and a whole bunch of other stuff that I might have acquired during the trip that needs a new home. So when I come back to my space and it is nice and clean and neat and everything's in its place, it makes it so much easier to just feel like I am back home and it is a welcoming environment. So for me, not necessarily a belief as such, but something that I really enjoy. And in saying this, I did not used to be like that. Way back when I used to be a lot younger than I am now, it didn't bother me as much. And then I came across somebody that introduced the idea to me around, well, it's nice to come home to a clean, nice space. And one of the things that they do religiously is they would actually spring clean, literally, their whole house before they go on holiday, especially the big holidays. And I thought, oh man, that sounds like a lot of work. And I tried it 1 year, so I don't spring clean per se anymore, but I did try it 1 year to spring clean before we went on a trip, and it was quite stressful. I found it quite stressful. And in saying that, when we came back home, it was such a nice feeling. I so enjoyed it. So I started to tweak it a little bit, less spring cleaning, still cleaning, making sure that the environment is in a nice space and everything is in its place. Whether I would go as far as lining things up and making sure that they are just at the right angles, yeah, I'm not there yet. I think my husband might. So yes, that's where I am with that one. Dr. Jacqueline, do you have any other practices that might have interesting origin stories?
Well, I'll just share some that I know up here in the States, and you can let me know if they have it over there. And I don't know what the origin is actually, but I will look it up after this. So one of them is do not walk under a ladder. So if you see a ladder and I don't even know if they have to be climbing on it, but don't walk under the ladder. I mean, that makes good sense because anything can happen and the ladder can fall and it could fall on you and that could be a problem. But do you have that there in Australia or did you have in New Zealand?
I think, well, we had it in South Africa. It is something in New Zealand. I'm not sure about Australia. I haven't asked anybody about it. I haven't seen anybody actually pass under a ladder. So potentially it might be. Who knows?
I mean, I think some of these superstitions, they could have justification behind them. So to your point, there could be a story. Another one, which I actually do try to abide by, is to not step on a crack in the sidewalk, in the pavement. How about that one? Have you heard of it?
I have actually. I remember one of the shows that we watched quite a while back, Mr. Monk. I don't know if you are familiar with the show.
No.
And it's about an inspector that has a little bit of a potentially OCD and other types of things around him that things need to be just so. And he would actually avoid all cracks in pavements, including where the tiles get together or where you have set sort of spaces. So he would be doing all sorts of walking ways over his pavement. So I'm familiar with it, although I haven't seen anybody do it. And I am not sure what exactly is the thing that would happen if you do step on the crack. So, Dr. Jacqueline, what is the thing that would happen if you step on the crack?
Well, the thing I can think of right away is if you're wearing high heels and that heel gets stuck in the crack, you could break it off.
That's true.
Now, I know for myself, I went from wearing high heels all the time, and now I don't wear high heels at all. I wear a lot of glitter sneakers. So sneakers that have a lot of bling on them, which is so funny because if you had told me years ago I'd be wearing sneakers and have all these high heels, these beautiful shoes. So I don't really think about it as much. Plus, where I'm going, there's not really a lot of sidewalks when I think about it. I'm not in a suburb where I'm walking around. I guess I'm in a suburb, but I'm in an apartment building. So I don't know. But I can see that that's what the reason would be. Your heel could get stuck. And that has happened to me being in the city. At some point, I did break more than one heel, which is really upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when it's our favorite pair of shoes.
Definitely. Okay, here's one for you. And this is one that I'm guilty of, although I can't say at this moment that I am, but I like to have all the products in the pantry turned forward, like so you can read them. What do you think of that?
That is an interesting one. I can say no, not guilty of that. As long as I can sort of see them, that's my more important thing. But I don't turn all of them in one direction. I have come across somebody that decants everything that they buy in the shop. So they don't keep anything in a shop pack. So whatever the package it came in, even if it's a glass jar, they don't keep it in that. They would actually decant it into some container that they have specifically for the thing. And everything is very nicely labeled and it is very nicely stored in the pantry. And I was very impressed and it sounds like a lot of work. So I'm not doing it. So yes, that's sort of where I'm at with that.
No, I like that because I think sometimes, especially like living alone, I think there is some element of OCD where everything has to be perfect. And, you know, my apartment was recently flooded and I was living in a hotel. So it went from everything being perfect to being complete chaos and everything having to be taken out and all the things taken off the wall. And when I came back here and I thought to myself, how am I going to get everything back to the way that it was? And I thought, just one step at a time. And if something's not in the exact place and, you know, some things were ruined, so they had to be replaced. But it just goes to show you that it's control, by the way. So all that control can be washed aside in a second.
That's true. That's true. And the thing that I think about, if something like a flood or whatever it is that happens that shakes our system up a little bit, we have the opportunity to potentially do it different and change it up. Who knows? We might even find a way that it works better for us. So that's the way that I think about it. Yes, it's still a lot of work. And I get it. It's not fun, especially if you have stuff that you really adored and now it's ruined and you need to replace it. Even if it's a cup, we get attached to things for some odd reason. So I understand that would definitely be upsetting, even to me. Don't like it. And hey, I might reorganize my pantry or cupboard or some of the drawers.
It's so
Speaking
true.
of it, yeah, I might need to do that.
It's so true. You know, just off topic, just for a moment, something that I really found, because, you know, I have moved from Florida. I think I've moved 27 times since 1999, or maybe including 1999. I've moved a lot. And when you move that much, you realize how much stuff you've accumulated. And I've been very fortunate that I'm pretty good at selling things online or selling things in the neighborhood or Facebook Marketplace. And each time I've moved, I'm just reminded of how much stuff, even though I got rid of so much stuff, I still have more stuff that I purchased that you just don't need. So when the flood came, and it was a Friday night, so it'll be, I think, 3 weeks tomorrow, I had to just take what I was going to take. And so it's interesting what you actually take. I took my computer and the power cord, and I took all the hard drives because our shows are on there. And then I took my jewelry, some of it, I took my handbag, and I took a few pairs of my glitter sneakers and some gym clothes. And that was it. I had 2 bags, and that's what I took with me. And I thought, well, this is what's really important. And when you think about everything in your home that you have, you realize it's not all that important.
So true. That is so true. And myself, having moved a couple of times, yeah, we accumulate so much unnecessary crap. It's literally, that's what it is. Yes, they may make our life a little bit easier. And my bigger problem, and I don't know whether this has ever happened to you, Dr. Jacqueline, and I don't know whether this is a belief, but something that happens for me is, so I love books, and me and my husband have bookshelves with books on them. Now, the problem with moving is one of the things that happen is you need to rearrange said bookshelf every time, right? Because the books will end up in different places. And my brain remembers where I saw something, for instance, when we lived in Blenheim, and then my husband will ask me about something. She said, you know what? The last time I remember seeing it was in Hamilton. And I know exactly where it was at that stage. But then it got packed into a box of some sort. And then it got unpacked at some time. I didn't unpack it, so I don't know where it is, in a different location. And things move around. And sometimes I would be looking for stuff that I actually had in South Africa, and I never reacquired it. So it's interesting how, even though potentially the stuff moves on, the ones that I sell or that I throw away, of course, I remember that I did that. So I don't worry about them anymore. But the things that for some odd reason got misplaced or reshuffled, and I didn't do the reshuffling myself, well, from time to time, I miss them, and then I wonder where the hell they might be, and then I can't find them, or I hide them very well. Dr. Jacqueline, has that ever happened to you where you think, I'm going to put this thing in a safe place? It was so safe that you never find it again.
Yes, especially as we get older and our memories. I mean, I think, knock on wood, my memory's pretty good. I mean, my mom had dementia, so I'm always thinking about that. But I have put things in a special place, and then I don't remember where it is. And eventually I will find it. But I think to myself, why did I hide this? I don't even understand. That's kind of crazy. So going back to the topic today, which, also we were talking about weird beliefs, really, when you think about it, all the stuff that we have and how we carry it from place to place. I mean, you move from one country to another, which is a huge move. And I also think to myself, when I close the door, to make sure that it's locked, I always have to go back and try a few times just to make sure that it's locked. But you can hear it actually close and lock, but I'm not convinced that it actually is. And I don't know if it's that or the fact that I'm OCD. I think it's that. But what are your thoughts about it?
I have things where, yes, I've done the same thing. I have a thing about clothes irons. So when you iron your clothes, switching it off, I would switch it off at the wall, and then from time to time actually go back and just pull the plug out to make sure that it is off. Because I did have a case where I forgot about said thing and it actually burned out. So I didn't want to do that again. And then, of course, it tripped the power. Luckily, nothing burned, nothing bad happened. But because of that, I'm a little bit OCD about that specific piece. Doors, From time to time, it's not a regular practice for me to go back to a door. If I've locked it, I've locked it. But sometimes I'm sort of like, now did I do that? Can't remember. And then I'll go back. Hopefully, it is before I am halfway across town. So, yes, that happens to me as well from time to time. And I'm not sure where in our belief system that would be placed. Maybe just OCD.
Yes, I think OCD. And I'm so glad that we're just airing all of our neuroses for the world. But another one that I have, I love candles, although I stopped burning candles for probably 3 years because we had a show with the pet psychic and she was telling me about candles. And I don't know that it's good for the environment, but I do like candles. And the thing that I get crazy about, and I have to look over a zillion times, like to make sure that there's no embers flying anywhere. And then when I put it out, the candles typically come with a lid. So I've noticed that some of the candles don't have a metal lid, but they have a plastic lid, which I don't know how you can get around plastic in New Jersey because it's completely against plastic. But I'll put the lid on and I'll see all the smoke come up and then I'll have to stand and watch it for like 5 minutes to make sure it's not going to burn the plastic. Then I'll touch the plate. Like, is it really hot? Can it burn through that? So I thought that's got to be something really crazy.
Well, it's also a safety thing, right? If you leave the candle and it keeps burning, it can literally burn a place down. So I can see how that can be a bit concerning. And I think that's in all likelihood one of the reasons why we have these weird little things that happen to us. Something happened either to us or to someone else, and we have now created this oversensitivity about the thing. And then we start to, just double check on them, sometimes triple check on them, sometimes a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's very true. And you know what's something that's interesting, I'll just share now, is when the flood happened 3 Fridays ago, the people above me, whom I don't know, apparently they decided to hang their clothes on the sprinkler. So there's sprinklers, all throughout the unit. So they decided to hang their clothes on the sprinkler. So I was sitting at the kitchen bar area and I was eating and I heard, I'm like, what is that? So I looked out one of the windows and it looked like the ocean, which we're nowhere near the ocean, like the ocean had come and it was overflowing. And then I have these big windows. And then in the next room, I could see through there was nothing on the windows, nothing, zero. And that's when I realized this doesn't seem right. And then the announcement came over, everybody had to leave the building. So there's a stairwell that I've never used. And, I'm on a pretty high up floor. And as I walked out into the stairwell, I heard upstairs, it just sounded like the worst storm you can ever imagine. And I thought, yep, something's going to happen to my apartment. Something is happening to my apartment. I walked all the way downstairs. So anyway, I feel like that kind of left an impression with me because I really was helpless to it. And then I had to move into a hotel. So maybe that's also why I'm a little crazy, because I never in a million years would think I would live someplace where my apartment would be flooded. Like you would not, that's just not something you would think would happen. But I'm sure floods and fires and all kinds of things, obviously they happen all the time. I mean, look at what happened out in Malibu and out in, Southern California. And it happens all over the world, but you just don't think it's going to happen to you. So that could be why I'm a little neurotic about safety things too.
And I think that once we went through a situation like that, right, the likelihood of us being more wary of it increases. Definitely. To give you an example from not my specific life, but my sister, when she just started driving, so she just had a license, she went into an intersection where you have traffic lights, and she made a turn, and there was somebody standing at the side of the road, and she thought that this person's going to stand still, wait for her to pass, and then cross the road. They were not in a place where there was a crossing. They were just on the side of the road. And about when the person and the car were at the point where it was at your little mirror, your front mirror, the person decided to start to cross, and they actually walked into the vehicle, like physically. Luckily, she was doing the turn, so it was still very slow moving vehicle, but the person walked into the vehicle. And of course, because this is new to her, right? It's like, what the hell? Now I'm in an accident. I just got my license. So whenever she saw anyone next to the road, there would be this little panic going on because she didn't know what they would do. And she had this incident where, well, she didn't know that he would actually walk into the vehicle. So I think anything like that, if anything happens to us, we start to then create these little weird superstitions or beliefs about things around us because of the interaction or the environment that created potentially something that for us might have had a traumatic impact of some sort, small or big. So yes, I can definitely see that, Dr. Jacqueline. If that happened to me, for some odd reason, I'll be like, can I have the top floor if I really need to?
Exactly.
In an apartment building, I want to be at the top.
Exactly. I wanted to be on the top floor too, but it was taken. So, but something else that comes to mind is also with animals. And I'm superstitious. I don't have any animals now, but when I see pets roaming and they're not on leashes, what do you think about that?
Well, to me, if they're roaming and they're not on a leash, you never know what goes on in the animal's head, right? They see something that they want to chase and off they go. Do they look for traffic? No, they don't. They'll just run. It's instinct. And to me, that is concerning because you hope that they would listen and they may not, right? We have the same problem with human beings. I mean, we understand each other. We can talk to each other. We have various ways of communicating, and yet we still don't know what another person might do or not do. Cue my sister and the person that walked into the vehicle. So anything is possible, even more so with animals. We can't read their minds, and, well, hopefully they are well trained. And even when they are well trained, there might still be something that either scares them because they're not used to it, or they get very excited about it and they do something that's out of the ordinary. I have a cat. They have a tendency to, well, sort of do whatever they want. And they can still learn. So we're slowly but surely getting to high fives.
I think that's important because also when you just mentioned about what happened to your sister, we can't determine what a human being is going to do either, because if an animal, and I don't understand how people can let their animals off a leash, especially in a city or off of a busy highway. And I see it all the time. And I'm thinking, okay, that's fantastic. You had your dog trained. How do you know for a split second the dog's not going to see something, hear something, become afraid, and then they're going to take off, they're going to run into the middle of the road? But people don't seem to be alarmed by this. So I don't know, but I don't have any pets at the moment, and I'm kind of happy about that. I know cats are kind of self-sufficient, but I did have 3 dogs at one time. And that's another story. But I did think of a time when I was superstitious, and this is even more insane. You're going to be like, you've got to be kidding me. So I used to be a huge professional hockey fan, ice hockey. And I was a big fan of the Philadelphia Flyers. And I'm not really, I don't follow ice hockey anymore, but I was a huge fan. And I used to listen to the games on the radio because at the time, we're going way back, they were on the radio. And maybe it was an away game or something. And I'd have to sit like in a lotus position with my legs crossed. And I'd have to sit with my hands like this. And I wasn't even practicing yoga at the time. And I had a little macrame bracelet that had an orange and a black bead, because that was the flyers, their colors, that is their colors. And I had a necklace that was the same with the beads. And I'd have to sit there and I couldn't breathe or move until they finished their play. They're running down the ice now, they're, skating down the ice or whatever. And I used to do that all the time. My parents would be like, what is wrong with you? But I felt like if I moved, I was being really unsupportive to the team. So they ended up winning the Stanley Cup that year. And I made this kind of like a brag book. I'm trying to think what kind of pages they were, but you put holes in them, then you put pictures on them. And then I laced it together with orange and black thread. I mean, it was crazy. It was just crazy what I did back then. But I was a really big fan. And again, I was superstitious that if I was moving, I would cause them harm. So silly.
Well, I do know that especially in the sporting space, you are not the only one. I have these movies done about this, right? We have all sorts of examples of people doing interestingly, sometimes very weird things because they feel that that helps the team in some way, shape, or form. Now, does it really? I have no idea. So potentially it might, potentially it may not. And it is really up to you to decide what it is that you want to believe about that. I would, though, suggest that whatever the belief is, make it comfortable.
Definitely. And here's another topic I think would be interesting. You and I are both certified coaches. You have many more certifications than I do, but we meet with clients who have issues also. So anything that you can share, obviously we're not mentioning names or whatever, but any idiosyncrasies or superstitions, or I don't even say weird because that's judgmental, but beliefs that your clients have had that they really needed some help with.
I think something that I come across quite often, and it may or may not resonate with people, but I know it was, even when I used to operate in that space, it was something for me too. So when we go from a specialization into leadership, oh man, there's so many beliefs to work through. Because we are so used to doing the thing, we are so used to being the expert in that field, it's really difficult to let it go. And to your point of control earlier, to let somebody else control it so that we are not the one in control, but we actually the one supporting them. So being able to do that well, I have found, and for different people, different beliefs come to play in that space, but it sort of manifests in the same way. So it shows up in the same way. So that's something that I can say I have seen quite often when we move from a specialization and we're moving into this leadership space. All sorts of interesting things happens for us, and we need to work through them. The other thing that I've also noticed is when it is something that we have linked to our identity, it also carries a lot of beliefs around it. So if I am linking engineering to my identity as a human, then stepping into a different space where I am now not the engineer, not the expert, not the person that's supposed to know everything, that feels really uncomfortable. And a lot of the times, because we don't know how to operate in that space, there's some belief systems that we need to work through and see, well, is this actually serving me in this new space, in this different place? And we do that all the time, right? We have multiple functions and multiple places that we have to show up in a different way. I mean, I am a sister as well as a child, as well as a wife. I don't show up as a sister when I'm in my wife's space. It doesn't make sense. So understanding how we show up in these different spaces, it's only pieces of. It is not the whole of. And that, I would say, would be some of the beliefs that I see people need to work through. And in saying that, Dr. Jacqueline, what have you come across?
I would say, adding on to what you were talking about, so many people don't believe in themselves. Their belief is that they're not good enough. And I've seen that a lot on the television platform, especially. I've had people who really want to have their own show and they don't feel they have the confidence to do it. And they can be a guest, but taking them from a guest and having them be a TV show host is overwhelming. But yet they might be a keynote speaker, they might be a presenter, and they're presenting all the time. But when it comes to being in front of the camera, they just can't do it. And so what I found in most cases is you have to go all the way back through the layers. And it's just basically they don't believe in themselves, or they were told at some point in their life that they weren't good enough. And that's really filtered through, so that even though they can get up on a stage and speak, when it comes to cameras and lights, they're kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, speaking of TV shows, we've been doing this now for a while. And I have to say, this to me sometimes easier than big rooms of people. And it is interesting how we also grow accustomed to things. So I think there's this part of it being new and unfamiliar. And then, of course, because it is new and unfamiliar, we need to work through what is it that we think about it? What is it that we believe about it? We might have, as you mentioned, beliefs that might not be serving us whatsoever. And we need to work through them and then figure out what it is that we want to create within that space. So I know for me, the very, very, very first time you asked me to be on one of your shows, and this was way back when you were still doing Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline, I remember thinking, oh, what is it that I'm going to say? How would this be like? And I also remember that having a conversation and just thinking about it as a conversation made it so much easier for me to be able to show up, because you know what? I can listen and I can have a conversation with another human being. I've been doing it all my life. This is good. I can do that. And that's just the way that I reframed it for myself. So I can definitely see how that can be a big stumbling block for quite a few people. And I know that initially when me and Caroline started off also way back when, one of her biggest problems with tech, right? Just understanding how all the technology stuff works. And now she's a whiz. So there's nothing too small or too big that you cannot overcome if you want to. And doing it more regularly, it makes it so much easier because we get accustomed to it. So it sort of goes to the back of your mind. You've sorted it out. It's like going to high school for the first day. That sort of sucks. But by the time that you leave high school, that was okay and normal. Same with anything else.
It's so true. I think also kind of what we're alluding to, touching on, is that having a coach really can make a difference. I know today, excuse me, we had a show and one of the guests couldn't get connected because they were on a Mac and we're using Safari. And it's just a matter of talking the person through it. And it took a little while, but if you speak slowly and you give person confidence, because people get frustrated, I can't do it, they can do it. And so sometimes we just need a mentor or a coach or somebody to help us take our weird beliefs about ourselves or even our superstitions about things going on, and for them to just listen and be a sounding board and get to, what's at the core of why you're worried about walking under a ladder. Did somebody in your life walk under a ladder and something happened? Did somebody get crossed with a black cat? I don't know. There's something behind there. And so let's just get to it. And oh my gosh, we have to get to saying goodbye because we're already at the end of the show, which is crazy. So let's have you share with our audience the best way people can reach you and who's a good client for you. We're going to bring up ways for people to contact you right now.
So ways for you to contact me is via my website. You can do that. You can also contact me via my email address. So my email address is mariska@journey2discover.com. As you can see down at our little banner at the bottom. So via the website, there is a form that you can fill in. You can do it that way as well. Alternatively, you can also contact me via my LinkedIn. And as you will see, it is Mariska D. I don't know what they did with the rest of my surname. And there you can send me a direct message and we can start our conversation. So who is really, really easy. The who is anybody that's looking to step from a specialization into leadership, or if you are already in leadership, you can also step up in your leadership and transition into different spaces. And that's also where I can help you to see how we can bring more humanness to your space and make sure that we use all of your strengths as well as that of your team to get everybody to have a value creating space and not only a high performing team. And if high performing is what you are looking for, well, we can do that too. So that is who I work with and how you can get hold of me. How about you, Dr. Jacqueline?
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to share something I'm very excited about, if I can bring up the right screen. Okay, we on our one YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV and Radio, are so close to getting to 100,000 subscribers. I have been living for this day. I can't even tell you. Our other channel is about 24,000, which is Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. But we have a team of people here who do search engine optimization. They're doing their best. We've got more people from all over the world who are following us. So please go over to USA Global TV and Radio and subscribe. Okay, we will be back next Monday, your Tuesday, Mariska, and we'll have a new and exciting topic. So stay tuned for intentional productivity tips coming up right after this. Mariska, you have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll see you all back here again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Have you ever felt unheard? Like your words float into a void, leaving you invisible and disconnected? How about feeling judged? When assumptions overshadow your truth, leaving you misunderstood and defensive. And then there's that moment when someone offers solutions you never asked for, dismissing your feelings and leaving you more frustrated than before. It doesn't have to be this way. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, understands. She's here to help you reclaim your voice, build stronger connections, and create meaningful conversations that inspire understanding and mutual respect. Through her groundbreaking books, online and in-person courses, and interactive workshops, you'll learn how to navigate life's most challenging interactions. Discover the power of elevated listening and transform how you communicate. Master setting boundaries and asking permission to protect your peace. Learn to recognize and release judgment, fostering empathy and true connection. Dr. Kerbeck also offers personalized coaching, one-on-one or group sessions, designed to fit your unique needs. Whether in person or virtually on StreamYard, her guidance will empower you to thrive. You don't have to struggle alone. The path to deeper connections and better relationships start here. Visit drjacqueline.com or usaglobaltv.com. Join a global community of empowered listeners and transform your life, one meaningful conversation at a time. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck is the listening mentor. Start your journey today. Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community, At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.